Shalom and welcome to the class of Mazal. I am your host, Dr. Michael Schulman of Ask Noah. Nice to see you guys. Just kidding. Just kidding. I'm Rabbi David Katz. I'd never heard of Ask Noah, actually. It was just a coincidence that happened. Pardon me. We're in the class of Mazal. We have some good, looks like there's some good stuff here. Looks like there's some very good stuff here. And we're actually not that far from being done with the chapter. Sifsei Chaim HaMazal Eino Gmol HaMaisei Adam Ela Kelim Efshariyos V'Tchoinos V'Misayim V'Voyis Hashem. I used to work at a comedy club. I remember there's a comedian friend of mine. He used to say at the end of every night, hi, his name was Alan Ball. I think he's niffed already. He says, if you liked me, everybody, my name was Alan Ball. And if you didn't like me, my name is Pauly Shore. Have a great night. I'll never forget that. It wasn't that funny back then, but it just kind of, when you have a microphone, I guess it kind of works naturally, you know? I don't know if you guys know my secret, but I learned a lot of microphone wisdom from working in the comedy club. I didn't do comedy. I was like an office guy, and I worked at night in the club. This is way back before Tshuva. But I really learned how comedian wisdom works. There's a lot to it. Those guys taught me how to just, I don't know. Just being around it taught me a lot. That's a little personal anecdote for you. Okay, we are safe as you say, Chaim Anod Reish, Perek Daled, V'Goraleinu, Kechol HaMoinim, HaGoyrel Hu HaMazal Sheyesh LaAdam. Okay, how many of you have ever heard of the Marines? Anyone ever hear this American entity? I guess it exists probably in other countries also, but we have something called Marines. You ever hear this thing, the Marines? Okay, now I'm not a Marine, and I've never been a Marine. I know Justin Becker. I see Facebook pictures. Don't you worry. But my knowledge of Marines is Full Metal Jacket, the movie. Okay, that's all I know about Marines. So what I don't know if this is true or not. We'll just pretend it is for Full Metal Jacket's sake. At the end of boot camp, we'll call that 9 months. 9 months of boot camp, i.e. a gestation period of a human. Remember in the Marines, in the movies, you get your orders, right? One is infantry, another one goes whatever, to help out in the Navy boats. He's the Marine on board. All right, so every Marine gets dispatched to where he's going to go. Let's call that lots. Like, you know what a lot is, right? Like drawing straws, right? So your mazel is the lot that you drew. You can all imagine this, like those like adventure games. Well, I got a strength of 60 out of 100. My endurance is 40. My agility is 20. You guys know those games? So you deal with the hand dealt, and you try to succeed. Type 1. That's actually based on real life, and that is called Mazal. Okay? Everyone type 1. You now know what Mazal is. It's how you continuously get and preserve your gifts. Here's a trick question. If we are a real-life adventure game, type 1, and you are a swordsmith, you're a swordsman, okay? That's your adventure game weapon. Everyone type 1. You have a samurai sword. What will be, everyone type the answers here. You can have more than one answer. What will your mazel be? All right, you are a high-level 85 out of 100 swordsman. Tell me your mazel. Let's hear it. Loretta 1R. Just let's go. Tell me your mazel. Wood carving. You're saying you will be a wood carver? Or you will have a wood carving thing in your life? Let's go. Type your answers. How about a sword instructor? You will be decorated with men of sword wisdom. There you go. A butcher. You guys see this? You will be born into an area where it will be accessible to you, a sword teacher. Type 1. You will understand what sharp is. Very good, Loretta 1R. You understand the concept of sharp. Guess what happens when you don't understand the concept of sharp? You are not a swordsman, are you? So you can imagine this guy's bio. My dad was a butcher. My dad was a Marine. And he's stationed in Japan. And I met a little Oriental guy that was a master samurai. And his wife was a kindergarten teacher that raised me, right? And there were swords in the house. And my dad had, knives in his military outfits. I wanted to be like Dad. Can you cop the story? And then I saw The Karate Kid, and I knew that was my fate. Okay, type 1. Now, where does the word Mazal come from? From nozal, to drip. In Hebrew, when you have a cold, it's called a nozelet, a runny nose. So your Mazal is dripping to you. Do you understand that concept, dripping to you? You are a swordsman, type 1, Justin Becker, type 1. And you know what your problem is, Justin? You just moved to Idaho, type 1. You left Japan with your sword, and you got married, and you were very, you were very nervous about the move, weren't you, type 1? Because you don't know if there's a sword industry or infrastructure in Idaho. Justin, type 1. Justin, if you type 1 just now, then you're nervous about your lack of swordsmanship, correct? So you effectively are on empty and have nothing. You have nothing. Type 1, nothing. You just moved here. You have no swords people, and you're very upset, and you have no trust in God, and you don't know what your fate's going to be, do you? Type 1. Type 1. But there is a God, isn't there? Baruch Hashem, there's a God, type 1. And when you learn about Mazal, you would realize when the next drip from heaven comes, what's going to happen, Justin? You were dripless, and then God sent the drip. What happened? What happened? Let's go. God dripped. What happened? Justin went to the grocery store. Oh, how? How, Justin? Many swords. What is it, the Matrix? You really think you live in the Matrix, Addo? Justin was going to the grocery store, people. And as he was checking out in the line, he was all upset, talking to his wife, I'll bring home your favorite shampoo. And he saw out of the corner of his eye Bob Lee's Pro Martial Arts Training Seminar next Sunday in the big plaza about 1 kilometer away from Justin's house. Type 1. And Justin told his friends, yeah, I mean, they got martial arts here in Idaho, but they're not my style, I don't think, because I have a special style. And these guys are probably no good, right, Justin? And Justin's wife says, well, try it out, Justin. She's thinking, Justin, get out of the house. You're driving me crazy. Go for a drive. But she doesn't tell you that. She says, yeah, Justin, you should probably deserve the day off. Go check it out. You'll have a good time. Justin goes, and he's upset. Right, Justin? You're a very upset guy. It's all these like, half-baked, not really good martial artists. And then there's like one guy, an old guy, like 65. He can't really be flexible anymore. You know that guy? And something sets you off. You start talking to him, right, Justin? You're talking to him. And then he's like, yeah, I used to be back in the swords back in when I was stationed over in Seoul, Korea. And you're like, oh, yeah? Oh, look at that. Justin's back to life, everybody. Look at that. Look at that. All of a sudden, Justin says, well, hey, I'm in swords. He's like, yeah, did you ever do the cross B Bob 4 number 5 maneuver? Justin says, yeah. I got my black belt rank test on that maneuver. Next thing you know, Justin's got a little friend. And they exchange phone numbers. And you know what? Even if this guy doesn't pan out, Justin now has what's called a contact. And he can call around. And Justin got his drip. Everybody, yay, applaud Justin. He got his drip. He's not miserable. There is a God. And within 3 months, Justin found swordsmanship because Justin has Mazal type 1. You see it? Does everybody see it? Including Justin Becker. Does everybody see it? And that's how Mazal works. Right? It goes from no drip, and you're miserable, your shepherd dried up, until you get the drip. But it's not going to be a splash. You're not getting Michael with a harp. Hey, Justin. Hey, man, go left. There's heaven's gates waiting for you in the sword heaven. Doesn't work that way. It's not an ocean. It's a drip. So you got to get that drop when it comes, whether it's the corner of your eye, in a grocery market, in a dodgy piece of paper about a martial art exhibition that you maybe can find something there. That's how it enters this lowly world of Asiya from Shemayim. Shalom Bator Gemol Al Maisiv. Ayin Das Tavonas Amod. I know Kalim and Sayim Sharius. So it doesn't just happen by chance. There's a hishtalshalis. There's vessels that are employed. Somebody had to move to Idaho and set up the school and put the flyer. Justin had to move there. Right? All these little tips that bring you your drop. So then Justin was depressed and he wasn't going to class. And then he came back 5 months later and said, Justin, how are you? He says, oh, it's amazing. Idaho is the mecca of swordsmanship. Who knew? So now, because he can do his godly service, it came to action. We call that, Justin, no need to get depressed. It's called getting adjusted. Right, Lorena 1R? And I'm talking to you. It's called getting adjusted, right? There you go. It comes in the drop. It's got to go through the kalim and the hishtalshalis, and it's hard, and I don't even like the grocery store, and they don't have my favorite brand, and the people there are rude, and it's dirty, and a little crunched up piece of paper that just happens to have what you need on it. As we explained in Nida, the Malach HaMamayne Al Heryoin, Kolach Aviachami B'nai Yisrael Makabel T'choyes Kalim Amitim Achelko. So, isn't it a little bit far-fetched? You want me to rely on my shefa by a dodgy, crinkled-up piece of dirty paper at a dodgy supermarket in a dodgy state. Isn't that right? Isn't that right? Well, hey, that's why God gave you eyeballs. Hi, my name is John Doe, and I'm a swordsman. And if I'm a swordsman, I'm like a Jedi Knight, right? I got great reflexes, type 1. God gave me excellent peripheral vision. But you know what? Nobody ever asked me, what's your name? And I said, John Doe. And they said, John Doe. Wow. Tell me, John, do you have great peripheral vision? You hear what I'm trying to express to you? Nobody ever asked John Doe if he had tremendous peripheral vision, did they? So all of his life, he knows he has peripheral vision. But he never considered that God would give him his shefa from great peripheral vision. Right? On the dating website, John Doe does not write, I, John Doe, have great peripheral vision. Let's say that it comes from your great cursive handwriting. Would you go on a dating website? Hey, everybody, I happen to have great cursive writing. But where does the Mazal come from? In these little weird places. One or two. Does everyone have this concept? How Mazal works? It's painful waiting for your drop. It's painful to rely on a drop, i.e. your pathetic peripheral vision. But guess what? It's not pathetic. That's your strongest gift. And that's how God sends you your shefa, to the little hole in the pin of the needle. Everything is decreed upon you outside of your fear of heaven. All right, everybody, think about the Kabbalah class that we just did in Type 1. This is going to be heavy. I want you to think about it. Okay, John Doe has no fear of heaven because he's a Russia. Okay? Type 1. Type 1. And Rashayim people, we're going to make this up, okay? And in a fictional place, they break microphones for a living. Okay? Just imagine it. Wicked people for a living in Evilville break microphones. Type 1. The skill of breaking a microphone, let's call that diligence. Just call it diligence, please. Call it diligence. Microphones are very tough and they fight back. This man has a level of fear of heaven of 0 because he's a Russia. Type 1. He has no holiness in his life, does he? Now, again, we're making this up, okay? Do you know where diligence is found in the world? It's really not indigenous to a wicked world. Remember how our Russia wishes to fly at night and is the Shema? Type 1. So again, making this up, this is not true. In holiness, the ikar of diligence is ascending in your soul as if it were to fly. Okay? And that comes from, again, making this up, from wearing tefillin very tight on your arm in some weird metaphysical way. It leads to diligence because God runs the universe. Type 1. The reason why I'm making this ridiculous story, the guy who doesn't have the fear of heaven, does he still have Mazal to break microphones? Type yes. But the gift that he needs to break microphones is generally holy. So he needs to find something holy in something of a world that's unholy. Can you imagine how hard that would be? Now, let's make the story even greater, okay? It takes a lot of diligence to kill a guy. Type 1. Look at the dilemma of this Russia. If I kill people, which I'll get into mafia and drugs, right? Then I get the diligence needed that pays the bills and breaking microphones for a living. Type 1. Look how hard it will be for him in his condemnation to find diligence if he's not willing to work a little bit hard at it, because holiness is cut off. Can you imagine that? Now, remember, there's degrees of killing, isn't there? Let's say that he's not a horrible Russia. So for him, murder, let's say he's like a repo man, hitman, and he gets a thrill out of breaking guys' legs. Can you imagine that? Not exactly great. And it's akin to murder. Even if it's not, we'll pretend, okay? So now, scale it back. Say he's not a Russia. And he's not in condemnation. And he has a level of fear of heaven. Can you understand now that your Mazal is decreed to you? But based on your coordinate of your fear of heaven, of your tzaddik Russia ratio, isn't the degree of how hard it is to get your Mazal, it's the challenge and test of getting your Mazal. Justin the swordsman has to pay attention at the grocery store. John Doe, blah, 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 he's got to work, blah, blah, blah. Right? The alternative is sinning and ruining your soul. Type 1. So if Justin doesn't want to work hard at the grocery store, being perceptive, using his peripheral vision, then it's going to go into more klippa, more sin, more wickedness that he will have to atone for. Let's say he misses the grocery store, okay? Justin now, what he does, Justin inherited a lot of money. Millions and billions. Type 1. So now the swordsmanship is like, it's still his passion, but now he doesn't feel any bit slighted by flying from Idaho on his private ranch to Los Angeles, leaving the wife and kids with a babysitter and a nanny to go have a man's week out, get his fix, and fly back. Can you understand that? Exploitation. And he just drops responsibility on other people. God gave him the money to do it. He didn't have to spend his money that way, right? He had other things he could have done. And now the peripheral vision is used in a very poor way. So now he's going to have to atone for that. Or Justin, if you think the supermarket's too hard, then why don't you do tshuva and improve? Why don't you improve so much that God gives you a blessing and a change of mazel, Justin? Wow, Rabbi Katz, we had to move to Montana. Would you believe, of all the things in Montana, my next door neighbor is a master swordsman? What do we call that, everybody? Mazel. Mazel. Mazel tov. Bracha. Shefa. Hatzlacha. Then you can say, does anybody in this room have mazel? Do any of you ever go to a store and always find a sale? Do any of you ever happen to find $1 on the street from time to time? If you do, that's the part of your soul that is not corrupted with sin that God allows to enjoy the pleasures of this world. That's enough to think about, isn't it? And we'll stop there.